It's one thing to make a case that the Sega 32X doesn't suck, but I'm here to make an even stronger case today. The Sega 32X is actually pretty good. Here are the reasons I think you should get a Sega 32X to go along with your Sega Genesis in the modern era of retro gaming. To understand why the 32X is great today, we have to look back at a couple of things that weren't so great back in the day. You see, using a 32X when it launched back in 1994 was kind of a pain. And it was an even bigger pain if you were planning to use your Genesis and 32X with the Sega CD together. You see, each of these has to run off their own individual AC adapters. And what made it worse is they often had different barrel sizes or tip sizes on the end of the power cords and operated on different voltage and amperage. So not only do you have to have 3 separate power supplies to run this beastly thing, you've got to have 3 outlets with enough space between them to plug in all of these wall warts. And if you try to use a surge protector that's got vertical plugs on it, that ain't gonna work. You'll have to have 2 surge protectors to go along with your 3 wall warts just to run the Tower of Power. Enter RetroGameSupply.com and their all-in-one power supply that supports all 3 of these systems with just 1 wall wart. It works in all regions and is designed not to deteriorate your audio or video signals. Now in the modern era of gaming, you can hook up power to all 3 of these components in just a matter of seconds using this great new power supply. And about those surge protectors, now you can just plug this in at the bottom of your surge protector and save space for all of the other plugs on one single protector. Another problem with the 32X back in '94 was most people only had access to either RF or composite video. But the 32X has always been able to put out glorious RGB video. And quality cable sets like these Pack-a-Punch component cables from RetroGamingCables.com, paired with your component-compatible TV or favorite retro gaming scaler, are a game changer, pun intended. Take a look at these before and after comparisons between composite video and component video. They're run through a RetroTink 5X and marked in the top left corner. This is composite, and this is component video. Take a look at how vibrant the colors just became, and the text on screen became instantly more legible. Here's Shadow Squadron in action on the 32X using the composite connection. Note the more muted colors, especially when it comes to reading the on-screen text. And here's component video. Once again, the colors pop off the screen, and the text is much easier to read as it's brighter and crisper. But even with these enhancements, the 32X is only as good as its software library. I've got 10 games I think are a lot of fun to play on Sega's little mushroom-shaped add-on. Here they are, presented in alphabetical order. Afterburner 2 for the 32X is a home port of the arcade game, in this case rebranded as Afterburner Complete. There are several things about Afterburner Complete for 32X that make it stand out. The first one is that it's able to reproduce near arcade quality music. While the 32X largely relies on the Sega Genesis FM or frequency modulation chips for producing music, it can also play pulse code modulation or PCM samples. That means, along with the Genesis FM sound, it's able to play back sampled pre-recorded audio. And the other thing that stands out about Afterburner Complete for the 32X has got to be how efficiently it can manipulate those super scalar graphics. Although not quite arcade perfect, it definitely trumps the Genesis version in nearly every way. Blackthorn is a cinematic platform game published by Blizzard. It follows the story of Kyle Blackthorn Veros. He's out to extract revenge against the evil Sarlacc and his minions. The control mechanics are quite similar to games like Out of This World and Prince of Persia. See how he does that whole jump up to grab hold of the ledge above him? All versions of this game have 17 levels across 4 areas, but the Sega 32X version has a bonus 5th area. Nice! Yeah, Sega failed to bring a Sonic game to the 32X, but the game we did get is pretty cool. Sonic the Hedgehog's former rival and now best friend Knuckles the Echidna has his own game on the 32X platform. Along with Knuckles, there are 4 other characters in the game known as the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐑𝐄. Unique to this game is a tethering system. It works kind of like a rubber band. You have a friend tethered to you on the other end. You can station your friend on the ground, then pull yourself back and away from them, and slingshot the both of you at the same time. It'll seem a little strange at first, but the game has tutorials built right into the first level to teach you how to use this mechanism. Most of the Sega branded sports games on the 32X weren't too great, but Acclaim's port of the arcade game NBA Jam Tournament Edition is fantastic. They've implemented some really cool things here, like scaling the players larger and smaller as they get closer to the foreground and the background of the game. The sound samples are pretty good with PCM playback, and although the in-game music is played through the FM chip on the Genesis, it's not bad. This Tournament Edition features more player attributes, in-game substitutions, and the vocal talents of in-game announcer 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐒𝐑𝐄.
Sweet touch!
Yeah, it really is. And here's the other superscalar game ported over to the 32X, Space Harrier. I feel like this game is even a better port from the arcade than Afterburner Complete, which was already great to start with. Among the many things that shine in this port are the super fast and smooth gameplay. It looks like Sega might have letterboxed this game just a little bit to wring out peak performance from the 32X, but it worked. And just like with Afterburner Complete, the tunes in this game are super faithful to the arcade original. Unlike some of the other ports from the era, this game contains all 18 distinct stages from the original arcade game. The game gets tough fast, but this is one thrill ride you don't want to miss on your 32X. Shadow Squadron is an exclusive game to the 32X, and among the 40 titles, this one is my favorite. You can play this game as a shooter on rails or as a free-roaming outer space simulator. A couple of interesting notes about this game. In on-rails mode, the only thing you control is the actual firing cursor itself. And it works in normal mode, meaning that up presses the cursor up, down presses the cursor down, and then left and right. But when you take on the free-flying mode, things get reversed. In other words, when you press up, your ship dives down, and when you press down, your ship dives up. And of course, you have left and right navigation as well. This gives you full 360-degree control inside the outer space environment. Time to take the helm, defend Outpost 51, stop the alien onslaught, and have a great time doing it. As a true fan since the first film hit the drive-in theaters back in 1977, I consider this game a must-have for every 32X owner. This is the only home console port in existence of the original Star Wars arcade game by Sega. It features the original John Williams music from the opening crawl of Star Wars. Once you start the game, you have the option of a Super 32X Enhanced mode, or you can play the original arcade game as it was released by Sega. Then it's off to do battle with the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star.
Lock S-Files in attack position.
Look at the size of that thing. Tempo is another exclusive game to the 32X platform. It has this rap intro at the beginning of the game that's so 90s, and it's a real treat to watch. In the main gameplay, Tempo and his friend Katie star in what's called the Major Minor Show. The stages in this game are called performances, and the goal is to complete the performances, climb the tower, and defeat King Dirge. The game features bright, colorful backgrounds with lots of parallax scrolling, and it has an original soundtrack with the tunes largely cranked out on the Genesis FM chip. Hey, you'd hope it has a good soundtrack. The game's called Tempo after all. I once heard the game Virtua Fighter referred to as the game that killed the 16-bit console. Once fighting games entered the realm of 3D polygon graphics, extra horsepower under the hood was truly needed. In this instance, the Sega 32X add-on does a better than average job of representing the arcade version of Virtua Fighter on home consoles. One of the great things about the 32X version of the game is that it has additional options that are not available on any other platform version of this game. The game does have the occasional slowdown that you would expect from using a 32-bit add-on on a 16-bit console, but overall the game plays very well. Many 32X collectors consider Virtua Fighter to be an essential purchase for the 32X system. And based on the quality of the finished product here, I can't say I blame them.
Virtua Racing!
Virtua Racing Deluxe is one of the most popular racing games in the history of the arcades. While it was originally ported to the Sega Genesis with a limited degree of success, the 32X version expands on every aspect of the original Genesis port. First, you have 2 new cars that you can choose from. Second, there are 2 new tracks added to the game. The frame rate and overall sense of speed on Virtua Racing Deluxe for the 32X adds tremendous playability to this port. And make note how it makes smooth transitions from the various camera angles selectable from the controller. The background music in the game is solid, and it never gets in the way in the overall gameplay and performance. If you're a racing fan, this is another great first-party title for the 32X that's a must-have. Now that you know all about the 32X, why not check out this video about this great Sega Genesis game, Sonic Spinball? I'll be right over there waiting for you.